Podcast, episode 343. Are you NSPM-7 compliant, citizen? As always, we are your hosts, Jake Rockatansky,
Julian Che Guevara Field,
and Travis View. Folks, today we are going to talk about a new presidential memo for the security state that could result in Julian getting zip-tied and exfiltrated to a black site, but might also harm people who don't deserve it.
Wait. Why are you putting my name up front? Like, if they do listen to this, and they are scanning for something, you're fucking throwing me to the wolves immediately.
Yeah. He said Julian, but he meant to say Jake.
Also, there is no Julian.
Yeah, there is no Julian.
Those
only
names
Zool.
aren't even real. Not the first nor the last, and don't look for me.
They're gonna go through my social media instead and be like NBA 2K, NBA 2K, NBA. No violent. What?
Give me like 2-3 months to leave the country before you come looking for me. Don't worry, I'm on my way out. You don't have to deport me. I'm self-deporting. Your country's a fucking shithole.
Today, we are joined by the hottest name in independent journalism, Ken Klippenstein, to discuss the National Security Presidential Memorandum 7, or NSPM-7, and the strangely muted reaction to it from the media. After that, we're going to unpack Trump promoting medbeds, Kash Patel's new challenge coin, and the Q Shaman's multi-trillion-dollar lawsuit.
Full support for our boy.
Yeah, well...
I want him to become a trillionaire, honestly.
I don't want him to be a trillionaire, but I would like to see him president.
A lot of it is crazy, but he got to the end and I'm like, this couldn't be worse than the situation we already have. So it's like, Ken, thanks for joining us yet again.
Hey guys, good to be back.
Yeah, very, very exciting. You know, it's like I'm always a pleasure to talk to you, but whenever we have you on, you always have something really horrible to share with us.
It's that time of the month again. We're calling it the Red Scare because we're bleeding. It's PMS-7.
All of our best guests bring horrible news.
So, this is, you did a really interesting piece for your Substack about NSPM-7. So what is this?
So it's a complicated order, not an executive order. I think there's been a lot of misreporting around this. It's what's called a presidential memorandum. There are only 7 of them this year, as opposed to the 200 plus executive orders that Trump has signed. And what it does in a nutshell is it directs the federal government to go after terrorism as defined by a number of new indicators. I'm going to quote for you some of these indicators, because if I just say it, I think people are going to think I'm being sensationalist. Okay, this is a direct quote from the presidential memorandum. The indicators are anti-Americanism, anti-capitalism, anti-Christianity, support for the overthrow of the U.S. government, extremism on migration, race, and gender, and hostility towards those who hold traditional American views on family, religion, and morality. So basically what this memorandum does, and we're lucky that we even have it, the previous memorandum, number 6, was classified, so we don't actually know what the contents are. Many of them are classified. Each president only releases a number of them, and they're distinct from executive orders in that these are sweeping sort of strategy documents that tells the federal law enforcement in particular and the federal national security system more broadly, this is what we're focused on. This is going to be our main, framework for approaching things over the rest of the administration. So what this does is not just tell the different FBI field offices in each state, prioritize these indicators that I was just describing, promote people on that basis, allocate resources to it. It's also telling what are called joint terrorism task forces established after 9/11. They exist in all 50 states and represent thousands of federal agents. They've actually been participating in some of the ICE immigration raids since Trump was sworn into office. it tells those joint terrorism task forces to go and respond and investigate these indicators. And what's interesting about that is it allows Trump to do something that the National Guard deployments can't. Because of posse comitatus, the National Guard is restricted from engaging in law enforcement on domestic American soil. And that's why we see a lot of these sort of absurd images of soldiers just ambling around picking up trash, because they literally don't have the ROE, the rules of engagement, the authority to do much beyond that. But in the case of the Joint Terrorism Task Force, they can go without the approval of the governor, responding to what Washington is telling them to do, and completely bypass all of that because they don't have posse comitatus. So in a way, it's a sort of ingenious maneuver by the Trump administration to use federal assets in states that might not want it on what it is that Trump is interested in doing.
So, like the president's like sheriffs, kind of like they can just go and like round people up and
Yeah, you can deputize local law enforcement into the Joint Terrorism Task Forces. So it includes both federal law enforcement like the FBI, but even just local cops can be roped into these JTTFs. And so it creates an immediate force multiplier, a kind of small army that you don't even need to create. It's already sitting there, and it has been since 9/11. But now, instead of focusing on groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS, the global war on terror is kind of drawn to a close. Not that we're not looking at ISIS and Al-Qaeda anymore, but it's not the overwhelming priority. They're in search of a new mission, and Trump just came in with this memorandum and said, here's the new mission, these sets of indicators. And it's basically a, focus on domestic Americans now.
Now, this seems like an obvious question, but I have to ask it. I get down to the third bullet point on this memo, and it says anti-Christianity. And like in my head, even as somebody, I'm not like a rah-rah America person. I'm somewhat indifferent. Most of my childhood up until very recently, was pretty indifferent about the country and the founders and all that shit. I'm not a super patriotic person, but I look at this thing, anti-Christianity, and I'm like, isn't that what the whole thing was about? Isn't that what the whole thing was about? Coming over here, killing all the Native Americans and setting up our own little plot was so that we could have a functional country where the state was separated from religion and people could be free to say what they want.
I think you are forgetting the Puritans, my friend. The whole thing was they left because they were too religious for England.
Oh.
Quite the opposite, my friend.
Is that so?
Yeah, ask Mel Gibson. He'll explain.
Yeah, I mean, I think I share the same kind of questions about what do you mean when you say by this? It sounds like they have not really unpacked their definition of, for example, anti-Americanism or traditional American views of religion. Like the traditional American views of religion it entails the belief that the presence of Catholics in the country is part of a plot by the Pope for Rome to take over the United States. But I assume they don't mean that. But I don't know exactly what they might mean.
No, you're right. The terms are extremely broad, and that has caused a number of respected law firms in Washington to advise their clients that since we don't really know what this is referring to, you should adopt more cautious rhetoric around these issues so that you don't get swept up in it. And so, to the extent that there's been any attention to this issue at all by the major media, it's been hand-waving. I saw one legal analyst saying, these things are so broad, how is this going to be applied? It's already being applied in the sense that these law firms are telling their clients, hey, don't say as much as you might have wanted to. So then these nonprofit groups in particular, it makes specific reference to nonprofits in the memorandum, are going to maybe look at a project they wanted to do and say, oh, okay, well, we're on the fence about this. Maybe it'll run afoul of this. Maybe it won't. Do we want to take the risk? And it's going to have what's called a chilling effect on speech, where it's not censorship in the sense of, prior restraint, someone coming in there and plucking out a statement or something, but, it gets factored into the decision-making of these organizations and how they conduct themselves going forward. So we're already seeing the soft effects of this in how these, I've had one member of a pretty big nonprofit reach out to me and say, yeah, our general counsel right now is redrafting our, policies around how we handle things because of this memorandum and because we don't want to get, in the worst case, criminally investigated, but in the lightest case, have our taxes audited by the Treasury Department, which the memorandum also mentions. It directs specifically Treasury to start looking at cash flows and the conduct of these nonprofit groups. So it's already having an effect on speech. The question is how far they're going to go with that army of Joint Terrorism Task Force officers. To what extent will they be involved in, kicking down doors and investigating people in relation to these things? Because what these indicators do, it's not so much, it's supposed to be around terrorism, so violent acts, and it says violent acts repeatedly throughout the memorandum. But when you adopt a counterterror approach to things, what you are fundamentally doing is you're adopting what I'd call pre-crime like from the movie, where you want to prevent the attack before it happens. Now, one can imagine situations in which that's justified, like if somebody's making a dirty bomb, for instance, or a WMD. Yeah, that's probably an extreme enough case that you would want to preempt the crime. But in this case, anti-Christianity, anti-capitalism, like that creates a predicate that allows the FBI to open an investigation without there being an actual crime that's happened. And the question is the threat represented by these groups actually sufficient to call for a response like that? I don't think it is. I think most people wouldn't think it is. But that's what we have now. And they even say the whole point of this is to prevent crimes before they have happened, which I was surprised that they actually were. I'm going to read the exact phrase from the memorandum. It says, so that law enforcement can intervene in criminal conspiracies before they result in violent political acts. So the whole point of this is preemption. It's not about something violent. The traditional law enforcement approach is some law was broken, gather evidence, and charge the person that you think broke it. Now it's prevent the violent act before it happens, and it makes specific reference in the previous sentence to Charlie Kirk's assassination.
Barron Trump is now laying in like a pool of goo with his eyes closed, and I'm pretty sure the next cue ball thing with the name on it is going to have mine. So that's really, really nice.
I would have loved to see Donald Trump's reaction when they unveiled all of the sort of touchscreen computers in the basement of the White House.
I'm gonna have to take down like my print of Piss Christ. I'm gonna have to take down my hammer and sickle. I'm gonna have to take down my American flag that's upside down and I've sprayed blood on. I mean, this is really bad for my home decor.
Yeah, I went to a Jeff Rosenstock concert 2 nights ago, and his logo is like a giant American flag with all of the like LGBTQ colors, and then a 666 where the stars should be, surrounded by marijuana leaves. Like, is Jeff like in trouble?
That's what's so funny is the Red Scare was somewhat similar in that the amount of like actual prosecutions and people who were actually kind of like taken in and prosecuted were quite small. But what, like you said, Ken, it's a chilling effect, right? It's just the threat. It's a new atmosphere of kind of like, are people going to turn me in? I mean, it's great. It's
sort of like the Jimmy Kimmel thing. Like, he got his show back, and you could say, oh, okay, everything's fine. But every other comic is going to look at that and say, okay, I'm at some. If you're at some network place, you're going to be like, well, look what happened to him. Do we want to tell this joke? Do we not? And I'm guessing next time Kimmel has a joke like that, he's going to think twice about telling it.
And it was already bad before.
First they came for the Jimmies, and we didn't say anything.
Then they came for the Carrot Tops, and we didn't say anything.
No, we definitely didn't say anything.
And then they came for me, and I was all out of jokes. I don't think that really made sense. I don't think that landed the way I was hoping it would, but that's okay. We can move on.
Oh, I do hope they come for you, but yeah.
Hard to be funny talking about something like this. This is so scary because like anti, what does that even mean? Extremism on migration. Well, that's all of you guys. Like, you're the ones being like so extreme.
Yeah,
like,
you guys are psychos about this.
It's like the Bugs Bunny meme where Elmer Fudd is putting the shotgun on the wall and it just turns around back on him.
Yeah. I think the last few points are worded more to like protect them because it says hostility towards those who hold, traditional American views on family. It's strange that they didn't write it that way for gender, and it's hard to write it that way on race because it's like traditional views on race. What's that? What's the American traditional view on race?
When I see the word traditional, I can't help but just see white. Hostility towards those who hold white American. Like, that's just what it feels like to me.
Yeah. I want to also, don't they have to draft a document at this point of like what traditional American views are to make this work?
We need to see those bullet points and how many Julian aligns
I'm boned.
Yeah, it seems like it's interesting. It seems like they're basically saying anyone who isn't MAGA. Like, this goes beyond like, the quote radical left. Right after this was signed in the Oval Office, there was a brief sort of, I don't know if I'd call it press conference because I don't know there were questions, but Stephen Miller, who is the Homeland Security Advisor, and as I understand from people in the national security apparatus, is de facto the guy in charge of this whole portfolio, along with Sebastian Gorka, who, remember, unlike the last administration, he's senior director for counterterrorism. So the entire counterterrorism portfolio belongs to him. And I think that like everyone, including myself, has laughed at him before, and we kind of laugh him off. But it's like, this is a very serious and powerful position that he did not have in the first administration. I feel like he was deputy assistant advisor or something in the first admin, and then he was kicked out.
Well, at least he started another viewing of 24. He's going through all the seasons again. It's exactly like me. I am in this. I am Bauer.
I am Jason Bourne. I have similar kung fu moves. Yeah, he's scary, dude. I used to listen to his like radio show like when I was like AM radio curious, and he's like incredibly extreme. He's like incredibly extreme person.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And it's important to watch what their comments are. So Stephen Miller, after the signing, it doesn't say anyone anywhere in the document left. It just has all these signifiers. I think for legal reasons, you can't just explicitly say, okay, this is the political opposition that we're going after. But Stephen Miller all but said that in his comments afterwards. He says, this is close to a quote. He said, like, this is the first ever all of government response to left-wing extremism. He just said it explicitly, right? Like literally at the signing of it. And he'll be in charge of the implementation. So I think that's basically what that is. They can't say this is about the Democratic Party for legal reasons. So then they just give you all these signifiers that basically amount to the same thing. Just look at who they're talking about. Like, so on Tuesday, so this was signed on Thursday of last week. And then on Tuesday, the domestic terrorism designation for Antifa was signed. And I think the effect that had was the media was like, oh, this is just part of that, I guess. But this goes beyond that. This isn't just Antifa. If you look at the comments Trump has made shortly after it, he starts talking about George Soros, which is like a very mainstream liberal Democrat donor. And what's more, there's a lot of confusion around domestic terrorism. I saw a lot of coverage downplaying it and saying, oh, you can't designate a domestic organization. The State Department has to designate foreign terrorist organizations, which is narrowly true. But the FBI still does and has for years maintained a domestic terrorism watch list. So all the foreign terror requirement refers to is charging someone in court with that. That doesn't mean you can't investigate them and find other crimes that you can charge them with. And the government's been doing this for decades. So they investigate and go after domestic terrorists all the time, even if they don't have that formal designation that they could use to charge somebody with. So I think that's part of the confusion around national security is complicated and confusing, but I think that's basically what's going on here and part of why it's been overlooked.
This is the type of thing that would be like perfect to go out and protest if I wasn't afraid that might be illegal. You know what I mean? Like, how are people supposed to fight against this? Like, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's almost like the meme where it's the guy with the stick being like, come on, do a left-wing extremism.
Well, I think you're right. I think it is probably the indicators are so broad that they can basically target like just anyone they don't like. One of the things that sort of stuck out to me as troubling is that the NSPM-7 calls for guidance to financial institutions on filing suspicious activity reports tied to, this is a quote, illicit funding streams. Now, you talk about how this is already affecting kind of like policy because legal counsel, they want to basically limit the legal exposure of the institutions they work for. And I imagine this would probably go double for like banks and payment processors. It's like, how are they going to react if they think that, well, if somehow I'm sort of like caught being part of funding anything the Trump administration deems leftist extremism, then all of a sudden the hammer could come down on us, and that could create kind of a chilling effect even prior to any actual legal enforcement. What do you think? Like PayPal or banks might react to this memo,
or Patreon or Substack?
Yeah.
Well, this is the realization of something I've heard conservatives talking about for years, which is the fear of debanking, and evidently that was projection because that's exactly what is going to happen here to the extent, you're making an important point because you have to look at these things as a continuum. People act as though, and to some extent in commentary on this, I've seen people say, oh, this is just more of Trump saying crazy things, which is true. He says a lot of crazy things in executive orders in particular that don't amount to very much. But this is a tasking to the Justice Department. And in Pam Bondi, literally the next day, she cites this memorandum in justification for creating an ICE, I'm not making this up, an ICE defense task force. So the legal justification is being applied to things that the government is doing right now. And so the way we should consider this is like there's a continuum of ways that it can be applied. At the really extreme end, you can be charging people with crimes related to your terrorism investigations that you've looked at. That hasn't happened yet. But what we're talking about now on Treasury, on the sort of qualitative effect on companies being willing to incur risks on things, that is already happening. So the question is, where between those two extremes is this going to land? We don't know the answer to that yet. And my best guess, based on people that I've talked to in the Justice Department, is that they don't know yet either. And they're trying to see how far can can we go, you got to keep Trump happy, but then also we don't want to create headaches for us legally down the road. And so I think it's genuinely up in the air as to what the public response is to this, what Congress's response is, which has been very disappointing. It was days before anyone in Congress had even said anything about it. I can go into that in more detail. Somebody from Courthouse News, after I kind of explained and broke down, like I'm doing here, what this, why this memorandum is more significant than an executive order, he, God bless him, just ran up to some of the ranking members on these national security committees in Congress. He works on Capitol Hill, and he asked the number 2 Democrat in the Senate, Dick Durbin, who is the ranking member of the Judiciary Committee. He asked him what the memorandum. He goes, "Oh, I haven't heard of it." And this was like 4 or 5 days after the memorandum was signed. He goes up to Senator Alyssa Slotkin. I call her the senator from Langley because she's always talking about how she worked at the CIA, and she's using this to brand herself as this national security expert. So you'd think she would know about like the most significant national security move Trump has made at least this past month. Same answer. "Oh, I haven't heard of it." And it's the same thing to their credit, the leaders of the Progressive Caucus, like Pramila Jayapal and Mark Pocan, yesterday, they are circulating a statement condemning it. But beyond that, there's been almost nothing in regards to a response from Congress. And that augurs, I think, badly for how far in that continuum they're going to go in implementing this.
Yeah, that was it is shocking how I guess it's not really shocking. It's just disappointing how slow Congress is reacting to that. I did enjoy that letter that Pocan, Huffman, and Jayapal led or authored. I want to read just 2 paragraphs from that letter. I think are very good. Could you take this, Jake?
Your memo uses ideologically charged language, e.g., hostility towards those who hold traditional American views on family, religion, and morality, that invites enforcement based on an individual's personal opinions or political beliefs, rather than any objective concern for public safety. This approach threatens our constituents' civil liberties. Regardless of whether the president agrees with someone's political views, the Constitution guarantees their right to speak and assemble peacefully. The memo also characterizes anti-capitalism as a hallmark of violent behavior without explaining the term. This omission allows officials to potentially treat Americans as domestic terrorists for something as routine as organizing a local boycott or operating an employee-owned business. That lack of clarity threatens to chill lawful activism and punish economic alternatives.
Now, good letter, but is it just a letter? Is there any actual momentum building towards real oversight, or is this the best we can hope for from Congress right now?
Well, so far I haven't seen anything action-wise, which is surprising because it's like in the case of the Epstein files, they've subpoenaed the estate, which I think is great, and it shows you power. Congress has a lot more power than it likes to admit that it does. If they're willing to play hardball, they can be the co-equal branch that the Constitution established them as, and they can be as powerful and overbearing as we've seen the executive branch be under this administration. The question is, are they willing to use those tools? And I think they too often, Hakeem Jeffries, when Trump first came into office, he famously said, what power do we have? You have a lot of power. We've seen it in the case. I just cited one example of it. And the Republicans in Congress have been very aggressive in subpoenaing things as well, from their Democratic opponents on a partisan basis, of course. But it's just not true that there's nothing they can do. And so it remains to be seen what kind of power they're going to be willing to wield, especially if after the midterms, the Democrats come into a majority. It's not so much their fault that they haven't played hardball now, because they don't actually chair any of the committees since they're in the minority. But yeah, you're right. This is just a letter of a statement. They certainly could be doing more. They could be, contacting some of just to give you one example, they could be going to the same nonprofits that I'm interviewing people from and asking them, how is this affecting you? And trying to get word out about the early stages in this continuum that I was describing before and how that's already happening. But no, they haven't done any of that. I've talked to some friends on the Hill. They say, with the shutdown, we're kind of like overwhelmed by that. But this happened several days before the shutdown even began. But I guess in fairness, they're probably overwhelmed with that. But yeah, this is all that we've seen. I'm grateful for that they did anything, but I haven't seen anything beyond that letter.
If I was part of like the kind of Democratic establishment, I would look at this list and be like, well, Nancy Pelosi has openly said, we're American, we're capitalists. Yet they all trade stocks, like even some of the, supposed pink tide people. But what it is an opportunity to do is excise the parts of the party that they are already not wanting in their party. They fucking hated it when the squad arrived. They hated the Bernie kind of popularity surge. They fucking won't endorse Mamdani. So if anything, they look at the list and go, well, yeah, anti-Americanism, I'm always fucking, sunken on that donk. Anti-capitalism, got it. Yeah, anti-Christianity, well, I mean, why not, I guess? We don't want to be overthrown. Migration, let's be honest, like we like it when the Republicans put the laws in because they get blamed for them, but we also like them. We're not doing any big ass real racial justice stuff, just aesthetic. Gender, well, we kind of threw trans people under the fucking bus. I mean, where's the fucking issue here in this list for mainstream Democrats?
Yeah, what's amazing, the progressives are the only ones really that have said anything. The first congressman to say anything was Ro Khanna about this, to his credit. And if you look at the statements from, say, Slotkin, when that person on the Hill asked her about it, she says, I haven't heard of it. And he kind of describes what it is. She goes, I don't remember the exact words, but something like, sounds not good. And then she says, but I definitely condemn violence on both sides. And it's just like, they're just not up to this. Like, you can tell they are sweating at the idea of being like, I don't want to be labeled one of these terrorist abettors or whatever. Like, because in a lot of the statements from the members who aren't progressives that have made brief comments on this, it'll have these weird disclaimers that but violence is definitely bad. So I think that in the wake of the Kirk assassination, there's a lot of probably I understand wanting to think about political violence and care about, but it's like they're overcorrecting by just not saying anything about these things.
But also, I'm sorry, in what ways did the person who shot Kirk or the many other kind of political violence doers, in what way they're not, this list doesn't really apply to them. This isn't really whatever MAGA imagines their politics to be. It's just it isn't that way. So
yeah, in the case of Kirk's alleged assassin, Tyler Robinson, which I've reported on having interviewed several friends of his and gone through messages that were given to me from his Discord, he actually fits a lot of these things because he was, as I understand it, he was raised Mormon. He was, in a lot of ways, I'm not saying he's a right-wing guy, but he certainly doesn't fit neatly into what they're describing here. Anti-capitalism, I never heard anything like that expressed by him in his messages or from his friends' recollections. Anti-Christianity, well, he's Mormon. Anti-Americanism, I mean, as I understood it, he was generally libertarian, as is a lot of Utah, where he grew up and was raised. I think he was raised in a smaller town. So you're exactly right. But in the media confabulation of what happened, it was the left-wing attack. And the Democrats have completely ceded this point. They've hardly challenged any of it.
Once again, it's just a cudgel that can be used on anybody who dares try to evolve the kind of classic Democratic platform. You can tell them, hey guys, now's not the time. Let's just fight Trump the way we've been doing it. Stern letters, okay? Don't actually do anything, drastic, because now, especially in this kind of climate, it just seems radical to, as is stated in the letter here, punish economic alternatives. Lol. Economic alternatives. When was the last time in any way there was a consideration of an economic alternative? Even fucking Bernie, it's not like he wanted redistribution of wealth. He just wanted fucking healthcare.
Yes, what they always do. The Democrats split the difference, just like with immigration. What I see when I look at the immigration issue is I see Trump having not ceded anything. And for 4 years, when he was out of office, including while facing indictment, going out and making a case for his hardline immigration policies. And he actually shifted public opinion on that. He didn't say, we've got to split the difference. What is the mainstream view now and what do I want? Maybe we'll do halfway between that like the Democrats do. He said, no, I want all of what I want. We want deportations, and that's exactly what he's done. But the Democrats have learned nothing from that you can change people's minds on things based on engaging them, which I guess isn't a surprise because I hardly do any media. I'm always trying to draw attention to the lack of interviews they sit down for other than obviously controlled influencers that work for the Democrats or aligned with the Democrats. And so they're unable to shift public opinion, but it's because they don't try. I don't see any effort.
A bunch of fucking birds on the back of an alligator's back, just pecking at it to try to get the food out or whatever. Hey, any day now we're gonna peck the eyeball, guys. Any day we're really gonna attack this thing.
Well, I think that social media often tricks these people into thinking that they're doing actual engagement. I think, a senator, governor, whatever, whoever it is, gets 250,000 thing on Twitter. They're pat themselves on the back and they're good work for the day. But that's neither here nor there. The point that I've been thinking about, as I've listened to you guys discuss this, is I think about Project 2025, right? And how big of a media thing that was. I still see people on my Instagram, acquaintances and friends being like, Project 2025, it was all laid out, still using it like it's, I don't know, like they decoded the cipher on the German submarine. And I remember when I read Project 2025, when it came out, I was like, oh yeah, sure, this is all the stuff that like Republicans want to do and have been wanting to do forever. There was nothing on there that genuinely surprised me, but like it's still a huge media bliss. But then I read this memo and I'm like, this stuff genuinely surprises me. This is genuinely surprising language. This feels like like you said, Ken, that it allows the possibility to target citizens and civilians as domestic terrorists based on a vague set of guidelines that the government will get to choose. That to me feels like a significant change, and yet there is not like the response to it. But as I compare it to like Project 2025, it just kind of baffles me. It feels like we're going after the wrong thing, and then when the thing that is really troubling comes along, it's like, it's like a memo. I don't know. Do you guys feel the same way, or?
We're not going after anything. You're just describing people being like alarmed and like sending like fucking articles to each other. This is not political activism. It's not resistance.
Yeah, I know, yeah. You're right. You're so right.
So don't worry. No one's going after anything.
Yeah, we've been placated into being like, there are people who are, we're like fighting a war online.
Yeah, we're someone off screen in like a fucking shitty movie being like, well, that just happened.
Like a Marvel movie.
Uh-oh. That seems bad.
Here we go again.
I also want to talk about the media response to it, because you were mentioning right before recording that like when you first like reported it, like I guess you kind of assumed that like it would get picked up quickly, because this is something that they did in a meeting in the White House. They announced it, and it was a press release. So it seems as though it's pretty it's free for anyone to like pick up, but not as many media outlets as you were thinking would actually did.
Yeah, when it first came out, I saw it immediately because I pay close attention to the national security stuff in my newsletter, and so I saw it maybe within 2 hours of it's being posted, and I thought, wow, that's really significant. I looked through it, and it kind of felt like a fever dream of some of the funniest corners of the resistance sphere, of like Mueller, She Wrote, and like Eric Garland. It almost felt like 2016, only Luis Mensch's stuff was like actually real and it happened. So I thought, okay, I was like, there's going to be a crowded field covering this. Good. So I don't have to worry about it. And then it wasn't until I think 2 days later that I even wrote my story, because in disbelief, I just looked around. Literally, I'm not exaggerating, not a single mainstream organization had a story about it. Not one. So I thought, okay, well, I guess I have to explain it. So then I did my story. It went completely crazy, which is very encouraging because it shows people really do care about this stuff if anybody bothered to try to address it. And there's been a little bit more pickup since then. Time Magazine had a story on it. MSNBC had I was making fun of MSNBC's national security correspondent. He's very like pro national security state, which I'm critical of, Ken Delaney. And I was like, hey, Ken, maybe take a moment away from talking about the indictment of James Comey, which in my view, like, obviously that's a story, but it's like that affects James Comey. This policy affects the whole country, or anyone in those descriptors anyways, which is probably millions of people. It's like, maybe do a segment on this. And then to my amazement, the next day he did a segment on it.
Nice.
But to my knowledge, I think that's the only mainstream coverage that it's garnered so far. And my best guess, I don't think it's anything nefarious. I think what it is there was that initial wave of coverage to the domestic terrorism designation of Antifa, again, 2 days prior. And there was this very pedantic point that I was describing before where they said, oh, how are you going to designate a domestic group? You can't legally do that. Yes, you can't charge someone with that. It doesn't mean you can't investigate it. The FBI has that domestic terror list. And as sources have told me, they're already mapping out for the next year their work. And they predict that this new memorandum is going to result in a doubling of the size of the domestic terrorist watch list over the next year alone. So you can imagine what will happen in subsequent years. In addition to that, FBI Director Kash Patel, in testimony about 3 weeks ago, told Congress that the number of terrorism cases that the FBI has opened since Trump's inauguration has increased by 300%. So this is already happening. I can't stress enough. Just because you haven't seen the Justice Department bring charges to court about whatever it is they're looking at, that doesn't mean the FBI doesn't have active investigations ongoing. In many cases, the FBI will spend years investigating things before, there's a saying, the gears of justice turn slowly. The system is slow. So we don't actually know what's happening beyond that illusion. And, in his testimony, he said, quote, large chunk of that 300%, and you can go look this up. This is all public, 300% increase in domestic terrorism cases. A large chunk of that is what they call nihilistic violent extremists. And that's an interesting term because that's a new Trump administration term which did not exist under the Biden administration. And as was described to me, and there have been hints, there was a hint recently from somebody who works at the Heritage Foundation. They're going to try to place things like gender extremism, transgenderism under this nihilistic violent extremist label because they view that as nihilism. And so there's this memorandum is kind of the formalization of this entire system that they're trying to recreate. Again, the global war on terror is over. And that war seems to be coming home because the Trump administration has offered it a new reason for existence.
It's amazing that like a bunch of like cornbread meatheads are going to have to learn what like blahage is and, and what autogynephilia is. And they're going to be like, AFAB, I don't. What are they talking about here? I mean, this is very funny to try to do COINTELPRO on trans people as if they're some sort of fucking organization that is like plotting the downfall of the government instead of just people asking for basic human rights and dignity. It's fucking disgusting and it's terrifying. And I do want to clarify a little bit. Yeah, I said like nobody's doing anything. That's not true. A lot of people are putting their bodies on the line. A lot of people are protesting ICE and trying to block stuff from happening. There are great community organizers that are, kind of creating these almost flash mobs to make it difficult for ICE to operate the way it wants to, which is like black bag a single person, get out of there quickly. So yeah, just wanted to kind of correct myself a little bit and say, hey, there are people, but they're just not they're not our politicians.
Yeah, it's not our fucking soft ass, our soft politicians who are fine, who are gonna survive all of this. They're not gonna be, targeted, like they're going to be absolutely fine. Yeah, it's the people who are putting their bodies on the line. That's absolutely right.
Yeah, and I'd add to that another really surprising part of investigating this story. What I interview people in FBI to get a sense of what's being said inside the institution is the extent to which the administration feels really paranoid as a result, not just of the Kirk assassination, they don't want to mention this other part, but of the mass protests and just the ground opposition to the deportations that has engendered in them this paranoid idea that everyone's out to get them. And you see it when Trump says that, we're going to investigate the funding sources of these things. Because sure, what he's saying, as I understand it, it's a mix of, you can understand them being genuinely traumatized by having seen one of their friends, murdered in a very gruesome fashion. But in addition to that, it's all of the, every time they do a deportation raid, there's mobs of people filming it and you post it, people get angry, people are talking about it. So that has engendered in them this sense of that they're besieged and they don't have the support of the public. It's almost like they feel like there's an insurgency going on, and that's part of why they're adopting these things. So I don't want people to have some black-pilled reaction to this, that what can we do? They're doing this because of the efficacy of the public backlash, even if there's nothing happening on Congress.
Won't somebody please think of the black baggers? They feel unsafe.
Yeah, I was like, one thing I did want to mention is that when you're talking about the poor media coverage of it, while researching that, I looked into some like the way that some local outlets were covering it. And my stance on that is really worse than nothing because it seems as though they're essentially buying into the framework of the Trump administration uncritically when they report on it. To give you an example, so here is how NSPM-7 was reported by the station WSBT. This is a CBS affiliate in Indiana, which is owned by Sinclair Broadcast Group.
President Trump says part of this executive order will work to dismantle what he calls domestic terror networks. The administration will be looking into who's allegedly funding these groups, and a joint terrorism task force will chase them down. In the Oval Office Thursday, President Trump signing an executive order aimed at reining in what he calls a radical left-wing domestic terror network.
These are anarchists and agitators, professional anarchists and agitators, and they get hired by wealthy people.
Surrounded by multiple cabinet members, Trump presenting the order as a way to investigate, disrupt, and dismantle all stages of organized political violence and domestic terrorism.
To dismantle left-wing terrorism, to dismantle Antifa, to dismantle the organizations that have been carrying out these acts of political violence and terrorism.
Oh my Lord.
This is everything that's wrong with media. This is why I left the mainstream media organizations, and as I explained to you guys on this show afterwards, was because you're forced into this he said, and then here's how they said it. And there's no interrogation of like, okay, are there these groups? Like, is this happening?
Yeah, where are these people finding like ancient hunting rifles? There's got to be big bucks here. They have backpacks.
Well, yeah, once you get a certain tier in the faction, you can unlock. You have to do like kind of a skill check quest, but then you can unlock some of the older rifles, which do have really high DPS.
I mean, just recently I did see a Fox News, like the primetime Fox News show, like interviewing a ex-Antifa person who's like wearing some sort of Ninja Turtles like biking mask.
Oh, I saw that too. Oh my
Absolutely
God.
absurd.
Yeah.
I really was just like, what are we doing, folks? This rules.
Yeah, but it's like this is like not Fox News. The people who watch this kind of thing don't view this as sort of like partisan network. It's just like local people who happen to live in their city and they trust, and maybe they've been watching for years. And this is how millions of people come to their understanding of this, which is like wholly inaccurate.
Also, Trump basically like does a QAnon conspiracy like in the first sentence where he's like, and wealthy people pay for them to be there. That's like George Soros pays for Antifa to go. It's like the pallets of bricks stuff. I mean, there's
You're thinking of the organization of the guy who got shot. That's the one backed by a bunch of fucking like big money. Like the big money is backing right-wing organized violence.
Yeah.
Left-wing organized resistance is always going to have to be independent because nobody wants to back them because it's not the democratic stance that we should be, actually resisting in that way. They say trust the system, trust the institutions. Eventually this will all get ironed out. It's looking less and less likely.
Yeah, this is the weirdest part of the story. I interview people that work closely with the White House and have a sense of what Trump and the principal figures think. When I went into reporting this, I thought this rhetoric around the secret funding, this has to just be rhetoric to make it sound like actually this doesn't have a popular mandate, the opposition to the ICE raids and things. And what I kept hearing was, no, they really believe that. They really believe this. And they are really going to go and try to find the funding, whether or not that exists. And that's a little frightening. Like, they're detached from reality. I suppose they have to believe this because if they don't, then they see the reality of that they don't have a popular mandate for what they're doing. And I've seen that again and again. Like, it's sort of comical. I think I've had a leaker in every single National Guard deployment to one of the major cities to support ICE, from Los Angeles, DC, the preparations for Chicago, Portland. I just got a letter from the Guard General, from a source that had access to the letter from the Guard General. And what that tells you is that that's not normal to like get leaks from the military on every single specific type of, that shows that it's not popular. And so maybe they have to concoct this idea of there being some alien interloper or something to rationalize what's going on.
Yeah, I can't imagine that they're going to say, we're going to go and find the people who are funding this, and then come back and say like, hey guys, actually, it's a hoax. They only do that with fucking Epstein. But with this, they would come back and be like, they're never going to come back and say, guys, George Soros, it's actually a hoax. He's not funding Antifa. Turns out it's just like a bunch of like pissed off young people that are fucking angry enough to put their fucking lives on the line to get out in the streets and fight this and do whatever they can because they see that their leaders aren't doing fucking jack shit except posting on Twitter and fucking patting themselves on the back and fucking imitating Trump. Like the biggest fucking candidate, the people that everybody's like, he's up next, Gavin Newsom. This guy's on Twitter fucking acting like Trump 24/7. He hasn't stopped since he started doing it. That's who's supposed to fucking protect us. I'm sorry. I'm so mad about this whole thing.
I guess
I'm too
like
mad. I'm crashing out.
I guess since the climate has changed and it seems like, I mean, do I even need to be beeped when I say that I want to use a to the Gavin Newsom off like a fucking grape, just pop it right off his fucking body?
I checked with their legal counsel and they said yes.
I think that's fine. I think if the FBI looks into that, they'll be like, this guy's cool, actually.
This is
Well, the
so
irony of someone like
maddening.
Newsom is he has all of this, performative opposition to Trump. And as governor, so the way these joint terrorism task forces I was just talking about function is they liaise through the police department. So in the case of LA, it would be like the LAPD, or California probably be like the LAPD. So the governor could pressure, the governor doesn't have direct power to shut down the JTTF, but they could pressure the police chief to do so. Maybe the governor even picks the police chief, depending on what the state's laws are. And none of the governors have said anything about this. And it's Trump federal forces being surged into their states, just like with the National National Guard, and they're happy to be, performatively oppose the National Guard, even though those deployments are largely theater, like I said before, just guys wandering around picking up trash. But in this case, not one governor has said anything about it.
Yeah, where are all the fucking like anti-big government, like the federal government shouldn't have as much control over the states? Those motherfuckers are real quiet right now. Where are you at, libertarians on the right?
Yeah, libertarians just kind of Trump. He was like an extinction level event for libertarians. Huh?
Interesting. It's almost like not a single layer of any of these motherfuckers is in good faith. And the biggest mistake is that we've been treating them in good faith like we're having a fucking conversation that are two sides of an argument. No, they don't care. As soon as they have power, they're going to do the exact thing that they said you were going to do.
Great episode so far, guys.
This is very cathartic for me. I've been very frustrated about
Yes, this is good. I'm so frustrated. I can feel my blood pressure just like.
It's good.
Yeah, Travis, keep us going.
Please. Yes, Travis.
Well, I think one way that Trump uses to like bury stuff like this is by, spraying out just a lot of shit, just lots of crazy shit all the time so that you don't really know what's relevant or not. And one of the crazy things that he did recently on his Truth Social account was to post and then delete an AI-generated video that looked like a Fox News segment that included Lara Trump anchoring and an AI Trump promising medbed hospitals in the national medbed card. Now, this is kind of crazy because one thing I'll clarify is like Trump posts Q shit on Truth Social constantly. He reposts like QAnon accounts, QAnon memes. So in that sense, this isn't unusual, but this is just, I think, more colorful than the kinds of stuff he usually posts.
Yeah, this is like if Trump did a infomercial advertising the Orgonite batarang that Travis bought in Sedona, Arizona, that he's supposed to put next to his pillow to protect him from 5G, but then he found out that it was it emitted a small amount of radioactivity, so you had to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Listen,
yeah.
I'm just so grateful because, he posted this and then, Pod Save America had to use us as research by listening to our medbed episode. They even had to say this was from that podcast, and it's pretty great. And I think the person who said that, I obviously don't want to target them too much, but I'm pretty sure I've had a fight online with him and called him names. So, you know what? That's great. Good job, boys.
Pod Save boys. Look, here's the
No,
thing.
don't talk to them like that.
Here's the thing,
no.
fellas.
Unless you're about to say I'd love to kill all of you.
No.
God damn it.
We're
Just,
gonna have to beat that.
You're
No,
not.
hold
What do you
on.
mean?
Play well with
Travis
us,
is
Julian.
Travis is gonna quit.
Again, the new fucking climate, I can say anything I want.
All right.
For on one side, obviously.
Actually, no, Julian, you can't. Until you self-deport, you actually can't.
Okay.
But
Got
here's
it.
what I'm saying is that things are getting so fucking weird that people who are normally kind of my enemies online, I saw a bunch of people online that I'm kind of secretly enemies with. I don't beef publicly. I don't beef publicly, but behind the scenes, I'm I think your opinion is trash. Whatever. We're all fucking petty bitch. Well, at least I'm a little bit of a petty bitch. But I saw them retweeting Ken's article and this research, and I was it was the meme of the two hands coming together and making a thing. And I was I think things are getting so weird and fucked up that I don't know, maybe there's an alliance. Maybe there's a QAA Pod Save America Mueller She Wrote alliance that's gonna happen.
I think we've just have a case of embarrassment on Palestine, embarrassment on everything that they
We'll
supported
never let 'em go.
not working out, and that we're still here with fascism. And now they're trying to catch up. Yeah, they're posting Ken for clout. They're covering this shit for clout. They're going, oh, you know what? Actually, Palestinians, maybe they should have rights. 2 years fucking later, yes, I do think that these people they're playing catch up, and they see the wind turn. They see that maybe their arguments for kind of centrist respectability politics made no sense and have led us here. And they're not going to admit that. They have bigger platforms than us. They're holding this kind of space, representing the left. They're basically AstroTurf. And great, yeah. Of course now they're kind of flavoring their content with some of the stuff we've been saying for years.
Yeah, we were OG Ken Klippenstein haver honors.
I remember it was funny. One time who was the guy, trying to remember what it's called. I can't keep these outlets straight. It was the Tim Miller. Do you know the show?
Are you talking about the Bulwark?
Oh yeah, the Bulwark. That's right. Yeah. One time he had a segment where he's like, Ken Klippenstein, just gonna. Oh yeah, this was after I reported the JD Vance dossier. Remember the hacked one that the other outlets wouldn't publish, and I published it. And he has a cord staying out his neck. He's like, Ken Klippenstein, just gonna say this. Just gonna put this out there. Don't like him. Not a fan of the guy. But the story,
cool, awesome.
He goes, but the story worth looking at. It was so weird. It was like that was
so
the best you
weird.
could get from that.
Yeah.
I had a buddy of mine, like an old friend from college who I'm like best friends with. We were talking, we play video games together online. And he's kind of a conspiratorial guy. Like I love him to death, but he's like kind of a lefty conspiracy theorist. And he was like, Ken Klippenstein, I don't trust him. And I
So
was
you mean like a liberal conspiracy theorist?
Yeah, he's like a liberal
Okay.
conspiracy
Okay,
theorist.
okay.
Yeah. And I don't know, he'd listened to like he's a listener of the show, and like he had listened to like one of the episodes that you'd been on. He's like, your buddy Ken Klippenstein, he was like, I think he might be working for one of the agencies. He was like, I think he might be CIA. And I was like, oh man, that's
totally.
so funny.
The guy who's doing like the biggest work, like getting leaks from and revealing like the power structures of that stuff, for sure. He's actually the one who's part of it. Not the people who've been quiet about it or supportive of all these agencies nonstop for years.
Well, that's where we
They're-
are,
They're
though.
great. They're not part of this thing.
Nothing is ever what it is. It has to be the most opposite thing.
Well, yeah, it's like anytime you try to say like what ethnic background Ken has, it's like it's always the opposite.
My favorite one is when people are trying to be racist, but they don't know how, and so they're just like, kind of like, okay, well, you're Asian, right? No, are you? This happens all the time.
Asian, but your name would indicate Jew.
Yep, they go down the whole list. It's almost like it's like the carnival game, like guess my height and you win whatever. It's like I literally don't think anyone has ever once guessed my ethnicity correctly.
And you know what? We're going to keep it secret. We're not going to reveal that on the QA, maybe on a premium episode.
Yeah, to your point, it reminds me, with the Pod Save America talking about this stuff, it's like the Japanese Ronin, where they don't have the samurai has lost the master, and so they're just wandering the fields. Like, I think they're like, see that this is like an existential threat to them, and they are looking to like Steny Hoyer and Congress are like, Dad, are you going to come pick me up? And they're just not there. So they're like, well, I guess we have to go to QAnon and Ken Klippenstein to see what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Go back to doing something else. Take off the armor, put down the sword. You never were going to use it anyways. Well, I guess you were on the left.
Yeah.
You're going to use it on the left. But yeah, time to go back to farming or whatever you were doing before you became a samurai, okay?
So here is the medbeds video that Trump posted and then deleted.
Breaking now. President Donald J. Trump has announced a historic new healthcare system, the launch of America's first medbed hospitals and a national medbed card for every citizen.
Every American will soon receive their own medbed card. With it, you'll have guaranteed access to our new hospitals led by the top doctors in the nation, equipped with the most advanced technology in the world. These facilities are safe, modern, and designed to restore every citizen to full health and strength. This is the beginning of a new era in American healthcare.
In this first phase, only a limited number of medbed cards will be released. Registration details will be announced very soon.
It's so insane that he posted a video of him, obviously a fake him, like announcing a full-on, like a construction project, like a healthcare initiative. Why would you post that? You know you're not going to do it. My only guess here is that posting it and then deleting it makes all these QAnon people go, see, secretly this is happening, but he just can't admit it yet. Like he had to take it down because, that's about it. But otherwise, this is an insane decision to do.
I think, Jules, I think there might be one other explanation.
Yeah?
Is that he might have not known that he didn't do that.
Yeah, or he fat fingered the iPad.
Like, he might have just seen Fox News himself talking and he's like, I'm announcing something
Awesome.
brand new. And he went, read truth.
Particularly after the speech at Quantico, man, he was like low energy. Did you see how quiet he was and muted?
Yeah.
I didn't watch that. I didn't watch the
not
speech.
himself.
What's the vibe like?
He lost his fastball. And like in the picture of him signing the memorandum that we've been talking about, like one side of his face is like drooping. Like he does not look good.
No. I think that like between Biden and this Trump era now, like we have been doing the whole like Mad King thing for a while, where it's like, rotting on the vine, and you're like, oh my god, making decisions as the DMT leads them back through their life before they expire,
drifting in and out of reality. Yeah, that's what this video is, and unable to distinguish between what happened and what did.
The aliens are like leading them like back to their childhood.
I mean, it's like when someone says, hey, remember like you said this amazing thing on this episode that I just listened to, and I'm like, I did?
That's me with every episode.
That's cool. 700 episodes. I mean, who knows? I probably said that. Cool.
And like some friends and families like memories of me. They'll be like, "Oh, that time I'll be like, "I have no recollection of that." Anxiety will do that to you. When you're in your head like all the time, you tend to have like a horrible memory because like you're never actually experience anything. You're just sort of like managing like the anxiety to like get through it. Maybe too much information. We can move on.
Of course, the other possibilities, like, he's constantly signing things he doesn't read and saying things that like he's said to say for a teleprompter. So he might have said this video was like, well, I announced that. More people should know about the thing I announced, because he doesn't fucking know.
Yeah, maybe he thinks he did like set up a new hospital program. He's like, cards going out and only a limited number will be available. That sounds like something that I would do.
It's so funny to have this happen at the same time as them like doing the extremely petty thing of changing the portrait of Biden in like the line of presidents in the White House to like the like auto like signature recreation machine. Like what do they call that or whatever?
The auto pen, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, well, okay, maybe Trump is actually doing the signatures, but like it's not. That doesn't mean there's more intent or understanding of what the fuck he's doing.
Yeah, what he's signing, exactly. Yeah,
it's like, but he did it with that huge marker that he seemingly fists when he signs these things.
Yeah, he does a stabbing grip for these big old markers for some reason.
Well, he's a man who doesn't like to waste time. He's a good multitasker, so he's like fist pumping and sort of like cheering you on like as he's signing these orders.
He's gonna start signing them with just like a big X.
Yeah.
Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt was actually asked about Trump posting this medbed video, and I think it's really an old timer for evasive answers.
First thing, I want to ask about this video that the president posted the other day. It was an AI deepfake of himself talking about something called medbeds. What was he trying to communicate to the public there, and why did he delete it?
I think the president saw the video and posted it. And then took it down. And he has the right to do that. It's his social media. He's incredibly transparent, as you all know. You hear from him directly on social media. He likes to share memes. He likes to share videos. He likes to repost things that he sees other people post on social media as well. And I think it's quite refreshing that we have a president who is so open and honest, directly himself, many a times on Truth. You are hearing directly from the President of the United States.
The president is very transparent. His brain is leaking out of his ears and nose, and you can see it right there because it's him posting.
Yeah, those are your choices. Unlike Biden, this president's brains leak out of his ears, and he tells you about it.
Yeah, we're letting this guy be in front of the cameras. Okay, the last one we were hiding in the back and just making sure you didn't understand he had gone insane. This guy, you could see it straight up. So that's honest.
A lot of presidents, we take the phone away, but with this president, we let him keep the phone at night.
It's like, I love, what a strange defense. It's like, well, that's something he did, and then he deleted, and it's his right to do. No one's disputing that it's his right to do. It's like whether or not he should do it. It's like I hear that the president is delivering upper deckers to every toilet in the White House. What's up with that? Well, it's within his right, so can't really question it.
Oh my God, that's so fun. That is so funny. I mean, she's essentially admitting that he saw the video, just retweeted it, and then realized like, oh, this is like a made-up video of me, and medbeds aren't real, and there's no card program. All right, I'll delete it.
Well, that's an excellent question. I just have one thing to say. Are you not entertained?
Yeah, he's the most American president ever. Just fucking like retweeting like little videos that make him chuckle online, and then getting told that like that wasn't a cool video to post and deleting it. I mean, this is really a man of the people.
It's all getting a little Paul Verhoeven-esque. Like, not just the video, but then the response to it, too. Like, you must have this feeling. It's just like, everything feels so unreal. I know people have said 100%. That before, but really unreal now.
Yes. Yeah. No, the images are being, like, flawlessly recreated. It's crazy. It could be written by Verhoeven. So many moments now that are kind of part of our timeline, our beautiful, beautiful timeline and country.
One other thing I want to get your opinion on, Ken, is that I'm putting a link to an image here in the chat here. Kash Patel is handing out his own personal challenge coins. And they look like a Punisher skull, but where the teeth usually are. There are a couple of 6-shooters, and it says KSH, his sort of signature logo there. And on the back of it, it says presented by the director of the FBI, Kash Patel, and then a little Tommy gun under, a little gangster Chicago Tommy gun that looks like right underneath it. Yeah, so why is this happening? Why does he get his own special coin he's just handing out to people?
KSH is by the way, it's the ticker for his meme coin.
Well, I might be the only. I feel like I'm the only person that read his memoir, Government Gangsters, that he published before he was appointed FBI director. And I didn't know quite how seriously to take it at the time because it felt so retro in a lot of ways. It was like this shit list of Trump world enemies, but from like 2016. So, and we're seeing it play out now with James Comey. When I saw that name, it's like, man, who has thought about that guy in half a decade? You know?
Oh yeah, they're targeting all the Spygate people. I feel like that's going to be their kind of like Mueller. They're like sadder, like even less effective Mueller.
I mean, if this is the era of like the DMT kind of leading backwards, like we're at 2016. Hopefully, I mean, I guess next we're going to be prosecuting Obama and maybe even revisiting the whole is he from Kenya thing.
Well, that was basically the thrust of his book. I was struck by how much they're willing to swing a wrecking ball to, destroy things that no one else in my lifetime would be willing to touch, but how small bore and driven by just like petty vindictiveness the ultimate point of it was. Like, if you could do anything, you're going to worry about guys from 15 years ago. It's so weird. And that book has turned out to be a roadmap for what they're doing. He literally has a list. I think it's like the deep state list or something. People should check it out. It's like $10. You can read through it.
Yeah.
You guys read it.
Well, we've covered the list at the very least, and the fact that he wrote the book. The funny thing about Kash is that I honestly don't think he thought he would get to where he is. That's why he's like on QAnon podcast being like, well, if I get become the head of the FBI, I'm going to turn it into a deep state museum on day one. That's the kind of like that's the voice of a man who does not ever believe he's going to be appointed to the FBI.
Yeah, it's so funny.
He said, here we are.
He said in the book, he says, I'm going to shut down FBI headquarters on day one. And then I honestly thought, oh, that's kind of an interesting idea because I do think that Washington has too much power. Like, I think there should be more regional distributed focus. Probably shouldn't be right next to Congress. But then I went on to read, I thought, okay, so I wonder what he'd do instead. And it was like, there was nothing else. It was just destroy the thing. And then it's like, and then what? And there's just and that's how he is on all sorts of things. It's like, all right, we're gonna get these guys, and that's the end. And there's no kind of next thing.
And then there are no more problems. That's all. You smash, no more problems. That's how it works.
And it turned out what he was talking about was that he was gonna get to work from home.
Well, I think they think it's payback, for all of the investigations and charges that befell people in Trump's orbit, and just the suspicions put on their campaign from day one, and airing out all their dirty laundry over his first term and then during Biden's presidency. Like, what else do they have except like satisfying the most extreme of their base and trying to prosecute like their enemies for retribution? What else is there? They don't have any vision for like, I don't know, like how to fix like any number one of America's like glaring issues. This is it. It's retributions. It's going to be trials and investigations on show. I mean, I don't know. That's what I think. I mean, that makes the most sense to me. It seems like the path of least resistance, which I think is what they'll take.
I also think like this is a nation of like, kind of like edgelord teenagers. All these challenge coins have always been that way. There's that. There's like the, like LASD, like gang logos, like every single kind of special forces thing, like makes their own, like, we're awesome. And, it's like, it's basically just like takes on the Punisher. But like, I'm holding right now a CIA NSA like special collection service coin. And it's honestly, and thank you to TrueAnon for, sending this our way a little while ago. Very cool coin. It's real.
Is that is a Black Widow on there?
Yeah, there's this. Yeah, exactly. It's like they catch you in their fucking web, the CIA, the NSA. Anyways, my point is we are getting aesthetically worse at celebrating our cruelty and our violence.
Yeah, did they not read Punisher or like?
Yeah, I was just
it's like having Trump come out on and playing the Darth Vader theme, and you're like, isn't that cool? Like, what? There's no subtext to anything anymore. It's crazy. It's all just overt.
I mean, yeah, this looks like something that they've been trying to sell me in like an Instagram targeted ad. It's like run 30 miles and you can get like this cool video game token.
I mean, I like how busy it is. It's got a signature. It's got number 9.
So funny,
the skull has like spiders for eyes. It's over designed,
It's like when you're a little kid, you're like, oh, and then we should put this. Oh, and what if we put this? You just can't decide on one thing.
Guns and spiders and 2 kinds of guns. And
guys, what if it was was like, what if it was the Punisher skull, but it was like a Terminator skull? Yeah. And then they're like, what if its eyes were spiders? And they're like, yeah. And then they're like, what if its teeth were 2 6-shooters? They're like, that's fucking cool. And then they're like, and on the back, we'll put a fucking Tommy gun. And they're like, yeah.
Yeah, just one of the most immature and cruel empires to ever exist. Fuck it. Bring back the British. Bring back the British. At least they had some aesthetic taste.
Yeah. There's a number 9 on the back. Is that like, it's almost like it's his sports jersey. He signed it like he's an athlete.
Hey, by the way, Cash, you're a fucking coward, dude. Put a 17 in there. You know you wanted to.
Maybe it's hidden. Somebody will find a hidden one.
Oh, yeah. No, the schizos will find anything anywhere, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's like dissecting a Hirschfield cartoon.
Finally, for this show, I want to talk about. I want to check up on our old friend Jacob Chansley, better known as the QAnon Shaman. So last I heard from him, he'd actually split from Trump over the Epstein issue, calling him a piece of shit. This is how passionate he was.
Hell yeah.
And it appears that rift has not healed because Jacob Chansley recently filed a $40 trillion lawsuit against President Trump. The lawsuit, which was actually filed in court, was 26 pages long, and it consists of just a single long rambling paragraph, and it features over 10,000 exhibits which can be seen in a Google Drive. In that lawsuit, he declares himself the first president of what he calls the new constitutional republic of the United States of America. It's really difficult to really get a really comprehensive how crazy it is. I chose a few choice paragraphs I think really capture its essence.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to reading this, but it's like, I'm kind of surprised this didn't happen earlier. I mean, I remember him saying that, like, when he was, in jail for J6, that they were, like, beaming stuff into his head from, like, outside his cell. And, I mean, he's always been shown signs, I guess, of, like, schizophrenia, but declaring himself the president, that's, I think we might have passed, a milestone here.
Yeah, this also shows a lot of the signs of, like, his gang stalking delusions. So, Jake, could you start us off here?
In order to understand how we all got here, and why my case against such a powerful system being irrefutable, we must put everything in context. To do that, the court must start with a phone call that I made around the spring of 2008, where I spoke live on KFYI Conservative Talk Radio. In that phone call, I spoke of a disruptive patent technology known as Tesla coil and its ability to give everyone free energy. I also proposed the notion of burning money to protest the government's printing of money and the creation of inflation. In the intelligence community and national security world, this single phone call was equivalent to metaphorically blowing up the airwaves with a call to action against the system. I therefore inadvertently created an unexpected national emergency below the surface of government security clearances and NDAs. I knew that my stunt on the radio got the government's attention because when they put the segment on KFYI's website, they called the segment Tesla Coil, which this may seem insignificant when you understand that all radio stations and most of their DJs are part of the intelligence community. You know that my call made a national impact. Also, when I attempted to replicate the process elsewhere, other radio stations had their doors metaphorically locked. In addition, I noted that a short time after I pulled that little stunt, the movie The Dark Knight came out. And in that movie, the Joker burned millions of dollars in money and blew up a whole police station in a single well-timed phone call. These seemingly insignificant details will make sense in context as time goes on.
This is schizophrenia. I mean, this
Julian, you're not a doctor.
I'm not a doctor, but like you're writing you're going back to 2008, going, man, I really made an impact with that like one interview I got. Like everybody was scrambling, and this has been my story all along for all these years. Yeah, I'm not a doctor.
The contrast between the seriousness of his tone and then in my mind just picturing I don't know if you guys played Command and Conquer games, the Red Alert game. Do you remember the Tesla coil?
Yeah.
I'm just picturing the Tesla coil the entire time.
Yeah.
I like he took the time to explain certain plot points from The Dark Knight.
Yeah, I mean, his whole thing is like, The Dark Knight? That was about me. When the government did stuff in 2008, that was about me. It's like, yeah, of course. I mean, this is a mind gone off the deep end.
Man, we were really stuck in the 2010s. Even he's referencing that period.
I know.
Dark Knight. Like, isn't there a more recent, touchstone that you could point to? Maybe there is.
No.
The Barbie movie was about him.
We don't have like spiritual connections, I think, to movies anymore, like we did in those early Batman Nolan days.
Say that to the people who want to be blue because of Avatar.
There are people who want to be blue?
James Cameron is an exception.
Yeah. Jake, just look up Blue Girl. Enjoy yourself.
Oh, I don't know. That sounds like, I don't know, it feels like
No, it's
naughty.
cool. Even Liv participated in the trend, man.
It wasn't
just social media, baby.
It wasn't on the indicators list. You'll be fine.
Okay, so
pro Navi ideology.
Yeah, there's another section where Jacob Chansley details how he believes the NSA covertly attempted to dissuade him from writing his book.
We must move forward in time to the autumn of 2017 when I was writing my book, One Mind at a Time, A Deep State of Illusion, and the government was watching my computer then as well, another violation of my Fourth Amendment rights. And when I was about to publish the book, I was contacted on Facebook by who I thought was Michelle Rodriguez, my celebrity crush.
Oh my God, no, he did the Jennifer Aniston thing. He's like, oh, Jennifer Aniston's gonna marry me. I need to send money.
This time period must be difficult for personality types like that, because you just open up Twitter and it's all these DMs from people that want to be your friend, that also want you to go to their GoFundMe link and send them your bank account. I mean, it must be overwhelming.
This is so sad. It's like I was contacted on Facebook by who I thought was a Nigerian prince.
What truly piqued my belief in a potential connection was the fact that she said my name in one of her live chats with her fans. She has since deleted that video, but I have more proof of our correspondence. After she said my name in her live chat, I began commenting on her photos with poetry I had written just for her. I then noticed she posted more photos and posted visual images of herself that seemed to be responsive to my poetic comments. So I kept sending her the poetry I had written for her, and eventually I received a message request from her on Facebook, and I happily accepted it. I do not have proof of this direct correspondence without accessing Facebook's deleted data. However, I do have multiple eyewitness testimonies who saw the communication taking place in real time. So, Michelle and I began a correspondence through direct message on Facebook, and eventually she gave me her number, and we started communicating via text message. Eventually, I discovered that it was not Michelle at all, but in fact the NSA. Then, after I vocalized that I had realized that it wasn't Michelle and was in fact the NSA asked me, who gave you permission to write a book? To which I replied something like, I thought we lived in a free country, didn't know I needed permission. There seemed to be no hostility afterwards. I was actually kind of flattered that my book had gotten such high-level attention, compliment of a lifetime, and I was offered the opportunity to work with the NSA covertly and help them deal with otherworldly matters that my shamanic beliefs made me a perfect candidate to handle. However, it seemed that through this correspondence with the NSA, I was also able to maintain a covert connection to Michelle.
So the last sentence makes it seems like he does still think it's Michelle Rodriguez. This is truly sad, I guess. I mean, it's like, dude, I mean, it reads like a parody, obviously. Like, you take someone being very serious, and then you embed what is clearly someone trying to scam them online in like the most basic way of like, you think this girl is hot, and now you think she's talking to you. Damn, and he just built that into his whole thing. This is kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah, like in the loss, you know, I assume that the lawsuit would be more about, you know, being radicalized by the Trump administration and MAGA and trying to, you know, because I think in some ways you might be able to, it might be a more reasonable case to, I don't know. I could see him doing that. He seemed, you know, at least after being arrested and sentenced, he seemed really kind of sour. And I know we talked to him afterwards and he reversed everything. But I don't know. I was not expecting something that was so, like, fanficky, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, as you will see, Michelle, you can expect an invitation to the White House.
Yeah, this is really the core of it. He finally gets to the point. So how does he justify that $40 trillion figure that he's suing for? That is detailed in this section.
It is for these reasons and many others that I cannot list in this legal case that I hereby declare total independence from this foreign power's corrupted financial system. In doing so, I have used the corrupted legal system's own weight and corruption as the legal weapon for its demise and self-destruction. With this legal action, I also hereby make myself the first legal president of the new constitutional republic of the United States of America. As my first presidential act, I am ordering the Federal Reserve to mint a single 1-ounce gold coin and set its value at $40 trillion and pay off the debt the Federal Reserve has unconstitutionally and illegally forced upon the American people by giving that $40 trillion coin to me, where $38 trillion will sit in the new U.S. Treasury, $1 trillion will be given to me for my year's worth of pain and suffering, and the other $1 trillion will go toward creating a new civilization based on symbiosis between humanity and nature in the new United States of America. I wish, I fucking wish, Jake, that like you had $1 trillion to like mold a new society where we're at peace with nature. Like I could get behind that.
He's like, I declare freedom, and since, now you're all with me in this next phase, I declare myself president, which is a really good idea to just have people be able to do that.
Yeah, you don't want people arguing.
By the way, I'm only taking 1/40th of all the money in the entire economy, okay? But that's for my years of pain.
Yeah, so Ken, will you hold Chansley's feet to the fire in this new administration? Will you really demand transparency from Chansley's administration?
I gotta take a note out of the what was the media segment you played earlier, where I'm just gonna say what he said. Here's his statement on it, and make of that what you will. I don't want to editorialize.
Jacob Chansley did write 28 pages, and he has a right to do that. And he did, in fact, put it out.
According to Jacob Chansley, he is the new president of the new United States of America, according to himself.
Yeah. I mean, I do love symbiosis between humanity and nature. That's really actually good idea. And that's the only real policy here, so.
Just end of segment after you read a statement. It's like no commentary on what we just read. I love the presuppositions of media. Like to say this was obviously ridiculous. Like that's editorializing, and so you can't do that.
No, yeah, we can't actually comment on this. I think that this might be real.
It's just fascinating to me. I mean, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt and just say that this is like a very fancy way of posting, and an American way of posting is to do a ridiculous lawsuit that will never gain any traction, and it's purely just to get, attention. I mean, here we are. We're talking about it. I saw, a couple other outlets talking about it, and
I just think that maybe mental health-wise, we're not doing great right now.
Yeah.
We're all going through our own trials and tribulations.
I'm definitely not.
Yeah.
Even just reading that, I was like, man, should we put a trigger warning before this? Because it's going to scramble people's brains, including my own as I was reading it. And just the guy in the press pool being like, yes, the president posted and then deleted a video about medbed, an AI generated video about medbeds. Can you tell me what that? I'm starting to just disassociate. Ken, you were saying none of this feels real. And I really I was thinking during this, I was like, man, I gotta talk to my therapist about ways to deal with frequent disassociation as the world begins to match the weirdness that we've been that always felt so niche, but now it's front and center. It really is a QAnon government. It's a QAnon America.
Yeah, Jake, have you considered that you're in a waking dream and none of us are real, and now it's becoming more and more obvious because this podcast you started is starting to write reality? That doesn't seem right.
No. Horrible. That's man.
Yeah.
I gotta
Ken,
fuck.
what have you been working on right now? You're always working on something interesting.
I'm looking at the FBI's expansion of the watch list. What I alluded to earlier about the war on terror, the global war on terror coming home. I'm looking at how that's being operationalized, and I'll be focusing on, just to give you one example, they replaced what's called the Terrorist Screening Center. It runs a lot of the watch listing. I think all of the watch listing for FBI. They have replaced it. Hardly anyone noticed this. They've replaced it and renamed it the Threat Screening Center. And so that's a metonym for how they're expanding their definition and how they conceptualize what terrorism is. That is rapidly expanding in a lot of ways that are not public.
Okay, so for that more uplifting stories, go to Ken's newsletter. It's good stuff. I mean, it's stuff that you're not going to see elsewhere, which is why it's a delight to read.
Thank you. I try very hard to not do I remember in when I was a kid playing soccer, the coach would always be like, spread out, because there'd just be that mob of kids around the soccer ball. And then I entered a profession that is essentially that.
Amazing. Well, yeah, obviously we'll put the links up to, your social media handle and the newsletter. So go check it out, everybody.
Always great having you on.
Good talking to you. Yeah, someday I'll have a positive story. Some good news.
Sure. Stop lying to us.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we look forward to this day.
I got a picture of Ken Klippenstein and it says, "Do not trust" on the back of it.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the QAA podcast. You can go to patreon.com/QAA and subscribe for $5 a month to get a whole second episode every single week, plus access to our entire archive of premium episodes. We've got a website, QAApodcast.com. cursedmedia.com.
And go check out cursedmedia.net, where all of our miniseries live. We're about to release 4 bonus episodes for Science in Transition, and we also will be shortly revealing Annie's miniseries on tradwives, and that's a bit of a limiting term. There's a lot more to it, but you will get to find out about that soon. Don't you worry. And it's the work on that is going very well. Hello, Annie. I hope you hear this, and we miss you. Hopefully someday you can come back on the actual podcast.
Annie, until then, may the deep dish bless you and keep you.
We have auto-queued content based on your preferences.
Cancer cells removed. Medbeds, quantum healing technology. In today's transmission, we wish to tell you about one of the first technologies that will be released to the world's population with the announcement of NESARA and GESARA. Along with new free energy systems supplied by the Tesla coils and new anti-gravity and replicator devices, you will also be receiving brand new holographic medical beds or medbeds. These new medbeds will come with some very unique features, including diagnostic support, surgical repair, and cellular and DNA reconstruction and rejuvenation. In short, they will become an integral part of your health care and health maintenance, changing everything within your healthcare industry as you know it. These medbeds, when used in conjunction with trained medical supervision and automated medical stations, will provide you with a variety of options and methods to return your physical vessel to optimal good health. These beds represent a quantum leap in the business of healthcare all over your beautiful world, for there are currently enough of these beds to begin rollout in every country that wants them. Just imagine a healthcare package with no chemotherapy, toxic chemicals, radiation, organ removal, or having to live long-term with scars, disease, and dysfunction. If you're thinking all of this sounds too good to be true, or something out of a sci-fi movie, we understand your reservations. However, we would ask you to remember that hiding in plain sight is one of the deep state and secret space programs' favorite tactics. For a very long time, the deep state has been showing you technology beyond your wildest dreams in your movies like The Avengers and The Kingsman. Just because you think you're watching fantasy is on you as far as the Dark Ones are concerned. As far as they know, they have been showing you the truth. You just haven't been asking the right questions or demanding the right answers.